over 1/4 of black men under 50 said they would support the Republican candidate in this year's election. Why do you think that younger male black voters are changing their association like this?
I think there's especially for younger black men, there is a frustration. But it's not necessarily frustration with Vice President Harris, and it's not even frustration with the Democratic Party. Frankly, it's a frustration of the pace of progress in America. I think about my state. In my state, when I was inaugurated, we had an 8-to-1 racial wealth gap in the state of Maryland. And that's not because one group was working 8 times harder. That's because of historical policies and circumstances. When I'm the third African-American ever elected governor in the history of the United States. That's not because I'm only the third African-American ever qualified to be a governor. And so I think the thing that we continue to see, and frankly, I think that debate was actually a perfect illustration, where for many of us, we grew up being told by our family members, you've got to work 10 times as hard in order to get ahead, in order to get an opportunity. We saw Donald Trump walk on that debate stage uniquely and historically unprepared. And because he thinks he can win on a whim. And so I think the frustration that people feel is real, but I think the thing that we're continuing to push to a lot of voters, particularly African-American voters, is that Donald Trump is a vessel to the skepticism. But what he is not is actually a vehicle for the solution.
Let me ask you about something on the debate stage that the vice president said. I know you served in the Army, ending the military families. What was the intent?
Well, I think what the intent was that this is not counter to the convictions of the Trump administration that somehow our world was safer under him, or we had less people in conflict. That is just not true. But I think the really important thing to remember is that we do have people who are in harm's way every single day. We have soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, Coast Guardsmen who every single day are out there with our flag on their shoulder and who are defending our freedoms and defending our values. We have to make sure that we're not just supporting them in their operations, but also making sure that we're supporting them when they come back home, making sure that we're supporting their families. And frankly, what we have seen from this administration, where we saw an administration who was able to pass things like the PACT Act to make sure that we're addressing the people who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who are having burn pit exposure, that we actually have an administration who is focusing on things like being able to support a Department of Veterans Affairs. And the thing that we've actually heard, in fact, recently, as recently as yesterday, from Senator Vance, is that he wants to privatize the Department of Veterans Affairs. We've got to make sure we're supporting our soldiers, our sailors, our airmen and Marines, not just while they're deployed, but also while they are coming home. And frankly, we have one campaign, the Harris-Walz campaign, that actually has a vision for that.
Governor, thank you.